The jungle was loud, every tree creaked, every shadow moved, every sound whispered danger, and in the middle of it all, a little alien girl lay still under a broken tree root. Her skin was pale purple, her clothes were torn, her tiny legs were shaking and her arms were full of cuts. She was alone, and she was afraid. Her name was G. She was only 7 cycles old, not strong, not trained. She had no food, no map, no tools, just the soft metal band around her wrist, once used for tracking. Now blinking red, almost dead. G sat up slowly. The trees above her were thick and tall, blocking out the sun. Strange vines hung from branches like snakes. She could hear heavy breathing from deeper in the forest, but didn't know what it belonged to. She remembered the crash, the fire, the screams, the ship breaking into pieces, her people running. She had tried to follow, but no one came back for her. Her lips trembled. She wanted to cry, but the jungle would hear her. She covered her mouth and curled up tight, trying to become smaller, trying to disappear. Hours passed. She walked, she tripped, she got back up, and then she heard it. A roar. Not from an animal. This was worse. It sounded like metal screaming, like a dying engine mixed with a growl. It shook the trees. Birds flew away. Even the vines seemed to shrink back. G froze. She looked around. She saw movement, a huge shape crashing through the trees, too fast, too big, too close. She turned and ran. Her legs were weak. She stepped on something sharp and cried out but didn't stop. The ground turned wet and muddy. Branches slapped her face. Leaves tangled in her hair. She ran until she couldn't run anymore. Then she fell. Her foot caught on a root. She slammed into the dirt. Her breath left her chest, and that's when she saw it. Through the tall grass ahead, a creature moved. Massive. Black armor covering its body. 4 legs like steel and a long head full of teeth. It sniffed the air once, then turned its glowing red eyes toward her. She didn't scream. She couldn't. There was no breath left to scream. She just closed her eyes and waited for the end. But it didn't come. Not from that creature. Because something else moved through the jungle. Something louder, something stronger. A blast of fire roared from behind the trees. The creature growled. Turning its head, another blast followed. A bright orange light that slammed into the beast's side and sent it crashing backward. G gasped and opened her eyes. The monster was down, and someone was standing over it. A human, tall, heavy boots. Black armor scratched and burned. A metal weapon in one hand, smoke rising from it. He stepped forward slowly, scanning the jungle. Then he saw her. G tried to crawl away, but her leg was bleeding, and she was too weak. The human crouched beside her. She shivered and looked up into his strange round face. His eyes weren't glowing. His skin wasn't blue or red. He looked soft, tired, but not cruel. He said something she didn't understand. His voice was deep but not loud. Not angry. He reached for her. G flinched. The human paused. Then slowly, placed his weapon on the ground. He raised both hands, open, empty, like he wanted to show her he meant no harm. G stared, then nodded, just a little. He picked her up carefully. She expected pain, expected cold, but his arms were warm, strong, and safe. As they moved through the jungle together, G heard other creatures scream in the distance, but none dared come close now. The human carried her like something precious, like she mattered. And for the first time since the crash, G felt something she hadn't felt in days, hope. She didn't know who he was. She didn't know where he came from. But one thing was clear. This jungle was no place for a child. And now, she wasn't alone anymore. G woke to warmth. Not the burning sun, but something softer like a campfire. Her eyes opened slowly. The sky above was dark now, Stars peeked through cracks in the jungle trees. She was wrapped in a strange cloth, thick and warm. It smelled like smoke and metal. She sat up fast. Her heart beat hard. Then she saw him. The human. He was sitting a few steps away, back to her, staring into a small fire. His armor lay beside him, scratched and dusty. Steam rose from his hands as he cleaned them with water. His gun leaned against a rock, always within reach. He hadn't left her. G pulled the cloth closer around her body. She looked at her leg, wrapped, clean. It didn't hurt anymore. She didn't understand the human's words, but his actions, they spoke louder. The human turned slightly and saw her awake. He raised one hand slowly, his palm open. G didn't move. He smiled just a little. Then he reached into a pouch and pulled something out, a small packet. He opened it and placed a square piece of dry food on a rock near her, then stepped back. No words, no rush, just waiting. Jai stared at the food. Her belly growled. She hadn't eaten in 2 days. She crawled forward and took the food. It tasted strange. Smoky, salty, but it was good. Tears filled her eyes. She wiped them away fast, hoping he didn't see. He did. But he said nothing. He just returned to the fire and stirred something in a small pot. After some time, G whispered one word. Her voice was quiet. Barely a sound. G. The human turned. She touched her chest. G. He nodded once, then touched his own chest. Grant, she tried saying it. He smiled again. Close enough. The jungle around them shifted. Low growls echoed from deep in the trees. G tensed. Grant stood up slowly, grabbing his weapon. He didn't panic. He didn't speak. He just looked into the trees, calm like a soldier who had done this before. G crawled toward the fire. Her small hands trembled. Monsters, she whispered. Grant didn't answer. He was already moving, quiet, smooth, fast. Then came the smell, thick, sharp, like burning oil and rotting meat. G covered her nose. One of the creatures was near. She saw it before Grant did. Tall, thin, arms, skin like black bone, red eyes. It stepped between trees without making a sound. Looking, sniffing. Jai gasped. The creature turned toward her. Then came a sound like thunder. Boom. Grant fired once. The creature's head snapped back. It fell to the ground without a cry. Jai stared at the dead thing. It smelled worse now, like fire and blood. Grant walked over, checked its body. He spat on the ground, then dragged the creature far into the trees and disappeared for a few minutes. When he returned, G was hugging her knees, still shaking. He sat beside her, silent. He took out a new packet of food and gave it to her. Then softly he said a word. She didn't understand it, but the way he said it felt like comfort. She nodded. Later that night, the fire burned lower. G stayed close to him. She pointed at the monster's direction and whispered, "You smell like fire." He blinked, then laughed once, quiet and rough. It was the first time she heard him laugh. She pointed at his chest again. "Grant, fire monster." He raised an eyebrow, then gave her a look that said, "Really?" She nodded with a small smile. He rolled his eyes playfully and muttered something she didn't understand. But he didn't seem angry. That night, she fell asleep leaning against his arm. The jungle still made noise. The shadows still moved. But she didn't dream of death anymore, because the monster that smelled like fire had become her protector. The sky turned black without warning. No stars, no moon, just dark clouds above the jungle trees, thick like smoke. Lightning flashed in the distance, and the wind howled through the branches. G woke with a start. Grant was already on his feet. "Packing fast, Storm," he said, voice low. She didn't understand the word, but she could feel the change. The ground rumbled. Cold air brushed her skin. Far away, a creature screamed. Not the usual kind, but something deeper, bigger. G stood, holding her blanket. Grant knelt down. Without a word, he lifted her into his arms. She didn't resist. She wrapped her arms around his neck and held tight. They moved quickly. The fire was left behind. So was the warmth. Now it was just jungle and darkness. Every step made a sound. Wet mud, snapping twigs, leaves whipping past. G buried her face into Grant's chest. She could hear his heart, steady, not afraid, not fast, just strong. A flash of lightning lit the sky. G saw shadows, shapes moving between trees, more than one, following, watching. She whispered, "Monsters." Grant didn't speak, but he gripped his weapon tighter and walked faster. The wind pushed against them now. Rain began to fall, cold and sharp like needles. Jai shivered. Grant pulled her cloak over her head, then stopped. In front of them stood a tree twisted and wide with a hollow center. Grant looked up, then inside. Dark, but dry, safe enough. He stepped in, laid G down on soft roots. He lit a small light from his belt, just enough to see. Then he crouched by the entrance, watching, listening, waiting. G pulled the cloak tighter. Her leg still ached. She looked at him, so tall, so still, like a statue, like a wall. "Why?" she whispered. He turned his head. "Why help me?" she asked softly. He didn't answer right away. Then, in his deep voice, he said one word, "Alone." G didn't understand, but she could feel the weight in that word. She crawled closer. "Were you left too?" He looked away, didn't answer, didn't need to. She already knew. A loud snap outside. G jumped. Grant was already standing. He turned off the light, lifted his gun, held his breath. Something sniffed near the opening of the tree. Clicking sound. A wet breath. G froze. She didn't dare move. Then, silence. Grant took a step forward, but the sound returned, louder, closer. And then, crash. A huge claw slammed through the tree bark just inches from G's head. She screamed. Grant fired twice. Light flashed. The monster shrieked. The tree shook. G fell backward. Grant caught her with one hand and pulled her close. The monster outside clawed again, ripping wood. Its face peeked in, long mouth, teeth like knives, skin like wet stone. G couldn't breathe. Grant aimed. Click. Empty. The monster lunged. G screamed. But before the beast could reach her, she lifted her hand by instinct. And the mark on her wrist glowed. A bright wave of blue light exploded from her skin. It hit the monster square in the face. The creature flew back, crashing through trees. Silence returned. Only the rain remained. G stared at her hand, shaking. "What was that?" she whispered. Grant stared too, eyes wide. Then slowly, he smiled. That, he said, was not normal. She looked up at him. "I didn't mean to." He placed a hand on her shoulder. "You saved us." She looked out into the trees. No more movement, no more growls. Just the wind, and the human, and the girl who finally fought back. He picked her up again. "Come on," he said. "We move before it wakes up." She held tight. But now, something inside her had changed. She wasn't just surviving anymore. She was learning who she was, and why she might be the one thing the monsters should fear. The rain never stopped. It poured from the sky like the planet was trying to wash itself clean. Trees bent in the wind. The jungle turned to mud. Even the monsters went quiet. Grant moved through the storm with G in his arms. Her face was cold against his shoulder. She didn't speak much since the light came from her hand. She didn't understand it. He didn't either. But now, they both knew something was different. Ahead, the trees opened. A sharp cliff rose from the earth like a broken wall. At the base was a dark crack in the stone. A cave. Grant stopped. He studied the opening, then slowly walked toward it. G looked up. "It's so dark," she whispered. He nodded. "Good. That means it's dry." Inside, the air was cold but calm. No wind, no rain. Grant set G down and turned on a small light from his belt. Its soft glow moved over the walls. Rock, moss, and something else. Something white. She saw it first. Bones. Not just one. Dozens. Piled. In corners. Some small, some big. And among them, broken helmets. Armor plates. A cracked data pad blinking weakly in the dust. She stepped back. People died here. Grant knelt beside one skeleton. Brushed away dirt. Soldiers, he muttered. Not locals. He picked up a rusted badge, his jaw tightened. They were human. She swallowed hard. Her voice shook. What happened to them? Grant stood. They tried to hide. Like us? He didn't answer. He moved deeper into the cave, checking. The walls, the ceiling, the air. It was safe. For now. He returned to G and started setting up camp. No fire this time. Just warmth packs and a soft mat. She sat down slowly, eyes still on the bones. Grant noticed. He walked over and placed his hand on her shoulder. They didn't have what we have, he said quietly. Jai looked up. What's that? You. She blinked. I'm small, she whispered. I'm not strong. He crouched beside her. You held back a beast with light from your skin. I've never seen anyone do that. I didn't try. It just happened, Grant nodded. Sometimes the strongest power shows up when we don't ask for it, when we're scared, when we have to protect someone. Ji thought for a while. Then she asked, Do you think they were protecting someone? He looked at the bones again. Maybe. Or maybe they were just trying to survive. She leaned against him, tired. Do you think we'll survive? Grant looked toward the cave's mouth, where the storm still howled outside. Then back at her. Yes. She closed. Her eyes, because of me, he shook his head. No, because of us. Later that night, G woke to a sound. Soft. Wet. She sat up and looked around. Grant was still at the entrance, holding his weapon. But something else was there too. A strange light flickered near the back of the cave. G stood carefully and walked toward it. She passed broken crates, torn bags, and more bones. And then she saw it. A mark. Carved into the stone, glowing faint blue, just like her wrist. Her eyes widened. She reached toward it. The moment her fingers touched the symbol, the mark on her wrist lit up. Grant turned around fast. Z? She stepped back from the wall. I didn't mean to, she said, but the symbol kept glowing. A circle formed. A pulse moved through the cave. And suddenly, the data pad near the bones blinked faster. Grant grabbed it. The screen showed old files, broken messages, but one played through static. If you find this, the child is the key. The light is not a curse. It's our only hope. She stared at the message. I'm not cursed, she whispered. Grant nodded. You're the answer. Behind them, the storm outside grew louder. The trees screamed. Something big was coming, but inside the cave, for the first time, G didn't feel like a mistake. She felt like a miracle waiting to be unlocked. The storm was gone, but silence had not returned. The jungle outside the cave was too quiet now. No wind, no birds, no monster calls. It was the kind of silence that meant something worse was coming. Grant sat at the cave entrance, one hand gripping his weapon, the other tightening the strap on his shoulder armor. His eyes scanned the trees without blinking. G sat deeper inside the cave watching him. Her mark still glowed faint blue. It hadn't stopped since she touched the wall. Are they coming? She asked in a whisper. Grant nodded slowly. Yes. He didn't smile, didn't lie. She liked that about him. Even when the truth was scary, it was still the truth. Then they heard it. A distant thump like a drum made of metal. Then another. Then closer. Thump, thump, thump. She grabbed her cloak and crawled next to Grant. He looked down at her. Stay behind me. She nodded. But her small hands clenched into fists. The first monster stepped into the clearing. It was bigger than the others. thicker legs, armor plates on its chest, black horns curling from its head, and its mouth full of teeth, too many teeth. Behind it came two more smaller, faster, red eyes glowing. All three moved straight toward the cave. Grant stood. His gun hummed with power. Jai stood too, her voice low. I don't want to run. You won't. He said, but I don't want to hide either. He turned to her, and for the first time, he didn't treat her like a child. He nodded. Then stand with me. The first blast came from Grant's gun. It hit the lead creature in the chest. Burned, deep. But it didn't fall. It roared and charged. The others followed. G lifted her hand. The mark on her wrist burned bright. She aimed toward the side. Her body shook. Her legs felt weak. But she didn't step back. A beam of blue light exploded from her palm. Wild, untamed. It hit one of the smaller beasts and threw it into a tree. The tree cracked in half. The creature didn't get back up, Grant grinned. Nice shot. She wobbled. He caught her arm. You okay? She nodded. Again, the second creature leapt into the cave. Grant fired. It dodged. Its claws scraped his shoulder. He grunted but didn't fall. Then Zai yelled. A blast of light struck the ceiling. Rocks fell. The creature was pinned under the rubble. The last one charged. The big one. Grant and G both turned, but this one was smarter. It moved fast. It swatted. Grant aside, hard. He hit the cave wall and didn't get up. G screamed. The beast turned to her. Its mouth opened wide. She stumbled back, fell. Her hand lit up again, but the light flickered. She was too tired, too slow. The monster lunged. Then, bang, one last blast. Grant fired from the ground. The shot hit the creature right between the eyes. It dropped without a sound. Silence. Real silence. Jai crawled to him. Grant, he coughed. I'm good, he said. Just don't let anything hit me like that again. She laughed, through her tears. I'll try. She helped him sit up. Blood ran down his arm. But he was alive. So was she. And all three creatures were dead. She looked at her glowing wrist. I thought I'd be scared, she whispered. You were, he said. But you fought anyway. They sat there surrounded by bodies and broken stone, and G finally realized she wasn't weak. She wasn't just a girl someone left behind. She was someone worth saving and someone who could save others. The sun rose slowly over the jungle. Gold. Light touched the trees. Birds returned, singing soft songs again, and for the first time in days, nothing chased them. Inside the cave, Z sat beside Grant. He leaned against the wall, eyes half closed, arm wrapped in cloth. His face was pale, his breath slower than before. The hit he took last night had hurt him more than he admitted. G stayed close, watching over him. Her small hand rested on his. You should sleep, he said, voice rough. I already did, she whispered. I can keep watch. He smiled, just a little. You're bossy now. She nodded. You're hurt. I get to boss you. Grant laughed, but it turned into a cough. G's smile faded. Does it hurt a lot? He didn't lie. Yes. She reached into her pocket and took out one of the food cubes he gave her earlier. I saved this, she said. It's yours now. He shook his head. You need it more. No, she said firmly. Friends share. Grant looked at her, surprised. Friends? She nodded. You carried me, fed me. You stayed when I cried. You fought monsters. Her eyes softened. No one else did. He didn't speak right away, then said quietly, I had a daughter once. She blinked. Where is she? He looked away. Gone. She didn't ask more. She didn't have to. She knew what gone meant. She reached over and held his hand tighter. I was a soldier, Grant said softly. I came to this planet to fix a tower, Signal relay, simple job, easy, in and out. She listened. I didn't know the beasts had returned. I crashed, same as you. Only difference. I didn't lose everything when I hit the ground. His voice cracked. I lost it before. She rested her head against his arm. I'm sorry. Grant closed his eyes. It's not your fault, she whispered. But I'm still sorry. For a while they sat in silence, not because they had nothing to say, but because sometimes silence speaks loudest. Later, Grant pointed to her wrist. Does it still glow? She looked at it. The mark pulsed slowly. Calm now, like it was breathing with her. I don't feel scared anymore, she said. I think that's why it's quiet. Grant nodded. Maybe it listens to your heart. She tilted her head. Do humans have marks? He chuckled. Only the invisible kind. She touched her chest. Like pain? He looked at her, surprised. Yes, he said. Exactly. She smiled. Then maybe I'm more human than I thought. Grant grinned. And maybe I'm more alien. They both laughed. That night they sat at the cave entrance. Grant held his weapon. Ji leaned against his side. Above them, stars blinked. Through the trees, Jai pointed. That one's bright. Too bright, Grant said. It's a satellite. What's that? A machine, made to look down and talk to other machines. She nodded. So, like a sky robot? He chuckled. Yeah, a sky robot. She looked at him. Will someone come for us? Grant stared at the sky for a while. Maybe. If they don't, what will we do? He smiled. We survive. Ji reached out her pinky finger. Promise? He looked down, confused, then remembered. He lifted his finger and linked it with hers. Promise. She leaned into him. He didn't. Move away. They were not just two crash survivors anymore. Not just soldier and child. Not monster and girl. Not fire and fear. Now, they were friends. And the jungle would have to face both of them. 3 days passed. The rain never returned. The jungle grew quiet. Too quiet. Grant was healing, but not fast. His right arm stayed in a sling. His face was thinner, but he smiled more now. Especially when Ji talked. She talked a lot now. She told him stories about her home world, about her favorite fruit, shaped like a star, about her pet bug that danced when music played, about her mother's soft hands and her father's brave heart. She never used to talk like this. Now she could, because she wasn't afraid anymore. On the 4th morning, a loud crack shook the trees. Not thunder, not claws. Something else. Engines. She ran to the cave mouth. In the far sky, 2 ships were cutting through the clouds, long and silver. One of them blinked with blue lights. Grant stood behind her, his good hand resting on her shoulder. Rescue ships, he said softly. Ji didn't speak. She was staring, not at the ships, at the jungle behind them. She turned to him. They're here too, she whispered. He didn't ask who. He already knew. The last hunt had begun. A loud growl echoed across the trees. One beast, then another, then more. Dozens. All coming. Faster. Ji stepped forward, her mark already glowing. She didn't shake this time. Grant moved beside her. Gun loaded. Sling forgotten. This is it, she said. He nodded. No running. No hiding. He looked at her. We finish it. The first monster leapt from the trees, huge, fangs open, eyes locked on Ji. Grant fired. It fell mid-air, but more came behind it. Ji raised both hands. Blue light burst from her. Fingers, not wild like before, but focused, like fire that listened to her heartbeat. She pushed forward, and the wave of beasts slowed. One tried to circle around. Grant saw it, shot it, reloaded. Another came. Ji spun. A blast hitting it in the chest. The jungle shook. Trees fell. Creatures screamed, but Ji stood tall. Every step forward made the earth rumble beneath her. One beast got too close. Grant pulled his knife and swung with his last strength. He fell to one knee. G screamed. Her power exploded again, this time forming a wall of light. The creatures stopped. They backed away, eyes wide, breathing heavy. They weren't hunting now. They were afraid. The sky broke open. The rescue ships landed with a deep roar. Doors opened. Soldiers poured out, human and alien both. Weapons raised, eyes scanning. They saw the bodies, the blood, the two figures still standing, and they understood. G looked at the last beast. It stood tall, watching her, silent, waiting. She stepped forward, her voice clear. Go. It turned and disappeared into the jungle. The battle was over. Medics rushed forward, but Z held up a hand. She walked to Grant, helped him stand, then looked at the rescuers. We're okay, she said, but we're not the same. Later, as they sat inside the warm ship, Grant's arm finally being treated, Z leaned against him again. Her eyes were tired, but her voice was calm. They left me to die. He looked down. But you didn't. He touched her wrist gently. The mark still glowed, but now it felt like hers. Not a curse, not a weapon, just power, guided by her heart. I don't know where I'll go now, she said. He nodded. Then, don't go alone, she smiled. Okay, friend. As the ship lifted into the sky, the jungle faded below, a place where monsters once ruled, but not anymore, because something stronger had walked through it. Not just human, not just alien, but two souls who didn't give up on each other, and when they left, they didn't run, they didn't crawl, they walked out together.